Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our epic exploration of Nib Files. We have a Nib file right now, and the objects in here, a label. Let's just rename this. Let's call it something like Nib Stuff. That looks good. Our text field, which right now has nothing in it, and our button, which we really should give some sort of text to. These three objects are going to be created when this Nib file, mynib.zib, is loaded into memory. When that's loaded into memory, it is going to acquire an owner. And the owner, which is going to be a pre-existing object, is going to have outlets that can connect to, in this case, Nib stuff, the label, and our text field. In addition, the file's owner is going to have what's called an action. And when we click on Click Me, we are going to be able to fire up that action. We're going to see how that happens right now. So let's go ahead and create a new file. Let's call it Galaxy Quest. That sounds like a good name. And there's our Galaxy Quest. It's just been created. Now, we need to have ways in which we can connect the file's owner, which will be Galaxy Quest, to a label and a text field. We also have to have some way of defining a method in the file's owner that can be fired when we click on Click Me. Let's see how that's going to happen. Let's go into galaxyquest.h and let's define a couple of what are called outlets. The word IB outlet indicates that this variable is going to be visible within Interface Builder. So I'll start off with a UI label pointer. I'll call it my label, not too inspiring, I admit. A text field, we're going to call this my text field. Again, these are not going to win any awards. In fact, I might take off points if I was grading my own work, but I'm not going to here. Lastly, we are going to create a method. IB action means, in fact, it is a synonym for void. So it represents a method that returns nil, and I'm just going to call this method Click Me. And there I have my interface already created. I'm now going to go back into my Nib file, and I am going to make connections to these objects. So I'm going to go back into my Nib file, and the file's owner right now, if I click on the file's owner and I click over here, the third item here is the identity inspector. As far as Interface Builder is concerned, right now file's owner is merely an NS object. You can see it says NS object here, and therefore has no particular variables. It has nothing here of importance. I'm going to change this from NS owner to Galaxy Quest. And now when I right click on the file's owner, you will see that the file's owner has several outlets. These are the instance variables that we saw developed and saw defined in galaxyquest.h. Because these were labeled as IB outlet, they are visible here. And consequently, we can make connections to them. Let's watch that happen. So I'm going to go here at Nib stuff, and I'm going to control click from here and drag it over to here, and that's going to fail because I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm going to start off from my label and drag to here, and I make a connection. So now my label, the name of that variable, that instance variable in code, is connected to this. And I'm going to do the same thing with my text field. Finally, I am going to go from Click Me, and I'm going to control click. Oops, let's try that one more time. I'm going to control click over here, and this is not going to connect, tragically. I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason for it. Let's try this one more time. There we go. A little bit of a bug there, folks. So what I did was I control dragged from Click Me over to the file's owner, and it listed all of the IB actions that the file's owner was aware of. And I connected on Click Me. The end result of this is when I click on the Click Me button, the method called Click Me will be fired. In Galaxy Quest, anytime I talk about my label or anytime I talk about my TF, I will in fact be accessing this label and this text field. It's magic. for the last part of this project, we need to actually go ahead and we need to create a Galaxy Quest object. We will do that in AppDelegate. As we said, when a UI application is created, a UI application instantiates an AppDelegate, another object that it consults when it needs to decide what to do about something. When the UI application is created, it consults the AppDelegate and specifically sends it the message, application did finish launching with options. That means that this method right here is called when an application is created. So this is a good place to start configuring things. Let's go ahead and import galaxyquest.h. Then let us create a Galaxy Quest variable. We'll just call it galqui. Oh dear, I seem to have totally lost the ability to type. Here we go, galqui. And here, I'm going to instantiate in the usual way. I alloc, and then I init. Now that I have galqui, I am going to, in the window here, well, I'm going to add a subview, and the subview is going to be from galqui. I will go ahead and explain this bit in a minute. And I'm getting an error message here, and I'll go ahead and correct that. After I've created galqui, I am going to reach out to what's called the NS Bundles main bundle. You can think of this as a directory, and I can send a message to this object and say, I want to load a particular nib, the one named my nib. I want to make galqui the owner, and I have no options. This causes this nib file to be loaded, and it causes galqui to be established as the owner. So this object right now has been created before the nib file has been loaded. It will be designated as the file's owner. Now there was one last thing that I forgot over here in Galaxy Quest, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this right now. I do need a third property. The third property is for that first view that we put in there, that the largest view, and it's simply a UI view. We'll just call it view. Now, having created this property and having adorned it, labeled it as an IB outlet, when I jump back into mynib.xib and right-click on the file's owner, I will see it now has a third outlet. Notice this one is unconnected. I will drag it and just release it over the largest view right there, and now the connection has been made. If I jump back into appdelegate.m, you will see that this error message will go away because now this exists. So here's what happens. The nib file gets loaded, and then galqui's view, once again, galqui's view is this whole area here, this view with its nested UI views, the label, the button, and the text. This whole view and all of its subviews get loaded into the window. And since they're there in the window, and the window is made key invisible, you're going to see it. Now if we examine .h, we of course have this action. The action isn't defined, and in fact we're getting a warning message about it. So let's go ahead and fix that. Now what shall we do when we click on the button? Oh, I don't know. Let's go ahead and let's put something into the text field. Into my text field, we will say, look, Mom, it works. So there we have it. We have a warning. My text field defines a property called text, and we actually have to use this. Remember, this is calling the setText method. It is going to set the text of my text field, and remember, this is in fact also calling an accessor of my text field. So if we did this the long way around, it would look like this: self mytf text set text. And you can see with all this typing, so these two are equivalent, And I think this one, the first line here, is a lot clearer. So we'll just comment this out, but leave it here for you to ponder. All right, the program is ready to run. We click on run. We hold our breaths. We wait. Here's Nib stuff. We click on click me. Eureka, look. Oh dear. Well, we got look mo. That's about as much as we can work into here. If we wanted to, of course, it would be a matter of moments to resize this to something more pleasing. And notice the little blue lines that pop up. Interface Builder does a very good job of helping you orient things. So if we run this here again, we will finally see clearly the stuff of the App Store right there. Thank you for viewing this video. On Friday, we will talk about these topics in class. If you want to, I recommend that you attempt to duplicate a project like this, just so that when we start doing this in class, you'll already be ready to go. See you Friday.